second annual NBK draft party in Atlantic City. There'll be a live podcast, live DJ, live video shoot. $40 for a VIP ticket, $30 for draft night only. Get your tickets now.
That's right. Get your tickets now. Welcome, Knicks family. Knicks and Bruises here. Shout out to the panel. I got a special guest in the panel. But first, let me introduce the Podfather and the Queen, of course. And then, first time on Knicks and Bruises, my guy, who's Mark. I like to say, where's Mark? Because you be disappearing on us. But welcome to the show.
That took me long enough.
It did. But there's no better time than the present. And today I want to get started with the media, and are they losing their authenticity? I think a lot of these medias like to talk about the Knicks and say things for clickbait rather than reporting on real stories, events, or even their true opinions. If that's your true opinion, fine. But I think a lot of times they want to make us the butt of the joke, referencing the past 20 years or so instead of acknowledging, where we are currently and we're probably in the best spot that we've been in the last 20 years overall, top to bottom, from the front office to the coaching to, building with youth to having some vets to having draft compensation. Draft picks, you know what I mean? We had Barkley come out and say how far away we are. He was asked, what do you think the Knicks need to do to kind of get back into maybe he said championship contention or playoff contention. Either one, he said, well, I don't know how long this podcast is in reference to like he didn't have enough time to really get into it. And then, we're far away. And it's one thing if you believe we're far away, but, it got to be a joke about it. And then Stephen A. Smith, the other day, he's talking about everybody's expendable for a Russell Westbrook. And if we're listening to what he said all year about Russell Westbrook, and now you're going to say that everybody's expendable because we're that bad that he'll take Westbrook for a year. And again, there's a legit argument for it, but it's the way you say it that I feel like, it's for clickbait rather than just being a true to your craft. So I want to get you guys' take on that, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in. I think Stephen A. Smith says a lot of stuff for shock value, right? That's he's not a shock jock, but that's kind of what he does. You know what I mean? That's kind of his MO. I'm gonna say stuff for shock value. Like he said the other day, the Knicks don't deserve Donovan Mitchell, and then he said, anyone's tradable for Russell Westbrook. Like, I think a lot of that is shock value for him. And a couple years back, he said he wanted to get into the front office, or not the Knicks, but a front office. I think we see why he's still a journalist. Right. You know what I mean? He's still a journalist. As far as Barkley, honestly, I take a little bit more credence in things that Barkley says than Stephen A. Smith. Right? Like Barkley, I feel like Barkley is the kind of person that is brutally honest. You know what I mean? And he's just gonna say, now, has he always had his thing with the Knicks? Yes, of course. But like not last year, but the season before, he was complimentary to the team.
He was.
You know what I'm saying? When they were doing good. So I kind of, hold a little bit more credence in the Barkley than Stephen A. Smith right now.
My only thing with Barkley was prior to this season, he said the Knicks were going to surprise teams, and now, granted, we all witnessed what we went through, but how far are we removed from what he thought last year, and I think he could have gave a more honest answer as to what he thought we needed to improve on rather than say, the open-ended answer of, how much time do I have, and we're far from it. And that was my only point. He
But
could believe we're far from it, but legit answer the question. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Queen.
well, he and a lot of Knicks fans did think we were going to be better. And I think once you watch this season and you saw how it unfolded, even I'm in a position where I don't even know where the Knicks are. Coming into this season, I was like, okay, we got a good base. We can build off of this. We headed in the right direction. After this season, with Randall's performance, not just on the court, but just emotionally, I'm like, where are we? Like, where are we? And so I can't fault anybody who looks at the team right now and says the Knicks are far away, because there are days when I look at us and I'm like, all right, a few things here and there we could have made the playoff. And then other days I'm like, I don't know where I don't know where this team is.
But I'm sure if asked the question, what can we do? You can give a legit,
Because
a legit.
the Knicks are my team.
I feel you.
Right.
I feel you.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Mark? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Like when it comes to this team, just like Queen said, man, this team is we don't have a gauge on it because our players is not as let's say consistent enough for you to say, okay, there's a base here that we have, and we can go off of that. Guys, exceeding the levels that they exceeded year prior, and then not playing up to par the next year. Everybody in the starting lineup with their percentages all plummeting from the year prior. So it just puts us back to I don't know where land. And the thing with the front office is now is like, what are they going to do with Julius Randle? Do they want to keep him to be, you paid him like as, part of the team as that guy for now. And it's like, if we're going to be led to a certain extent, just to be a decent team, not say playoffs, but just a hard-working team, it all based on what Randall can bring to us on a night-to-night basis. And it's not asking for 25. You know what I'm saying? You got RJ now. RJ went from having a, good shooting season, went back down. Now his extension comes up. Where do we want to pay him? Is he $100 million type contract player? It's trouble waters when it get into that, because one, he wants to be here, but you also got to be smart on what you're doing and how you spending this money on players. And like I said, I would say the only consistent thing to me is still Tibbs. I know most people don't like him, but still, you still know what he brings to every game. Still know what he prepares for every game, even though it takes him a while for him to try certain things that we would like him to try at certain times when it's needed. But other than that, when these guys talk about the Knicks, they have it right, because it's all over the place. And it's all over the place.
Here's the thing, though. Can I say this? Are we so, like, I think the biggest gap in maybe a lot of the expectation was where we were last year or 2 years ago now as the fourth seed to not making the playoffs. But when we really look at it in totality, we barely missed the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like we was a 5-game win stretch or a better record during that 13 and 17 stretch from really making at least the play in, like Sim has said earlier. So to say we're far away, like we're bottom of the barrel, and kind of like compare it to as if nothing has changed. You know what I mean? That's where I think they take it a little bit too far. But to Queen's point, a lot of us fans take it too far too, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So I do understand that, but I think these guys do it more for clickbait. Go ahead.
And I think. All right, thanks. I mean, I think, looking at where the Knicks are and feeling like we're in limbo, I think that's right. Because I mean, you look at the roster, and you have some talented players, but not enough talent to go up here. right? And it's almost at every position that you're like that, where you have some talented players, but are they talented enough to take you over the top? And so it's hard to figure out, okay, where do I draft? And if I draft this guy, what happens with these guys? You know, so you're in that kind of a situation. But I don't think we are a laughing stock. I don't think we're a laughing stock.
Right.
I think the culture is different. You know what I'm saying? People always look and say, well, it's a bad culture. I think a bad culture doesn't always
Right.
mean you're winning. I mean, I'm sorry. A bad culture doesn't always mean you're losing. A good culture doesn't always mean you're winning, right? The culture is how you go about doing business on a day-to-day. And I don't think that this team has a bad culture. Julius Randle had a bad attitude, and we'll see how it's dealt with, going into next season, and that'll help. For me, that'll determine, okay, what kind of coaching are we really building here? You know what I mean? But
that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't think we are the laughing stock of the league where what's his name say, oh, such and such, they don't deserve this player, they don't deserve that player. Yeah, I don't think we're a laughing stock like that. You know what I mean? 37-45 last season. I mean, one can argue that if Derrick Rose plays more than 25 games, this team is 45-37.
But you know what, too, Sam?
You know what I mean?
With us being
One could argue
35,
that.
yeah, with us being where we was put at by the playing tournament, it was all predicated on how the upper teams played later in the season. So it was one of those things that we didn't see coming. But some of them teams was just losing games while we was chipping one, we would lose 2-1. I'm gonna say this: the first half of how the Knicks played was just horrendous from the starting five, because that our bench showed development, because that bench held it together to keep us afloat to where we was, because that starting lineup was playing below average. That was probably one of the worst starting fives to hit the floor every night. So it's like we was, and then we started to play, a little more. One thing that was good to see is that Tibbs was able to get guys to still play hard through all of that.
Right.
So there was he's still commanding. The thing is that Randall was just not consistent. He was not in the game. He loses it sometimes. But if he was just 70% consistent every night, we will be a little.
But see, and this is where, like I've said to Steph on multiple occasions, not just Steph, but everybody. I can't speak for his attitude, right, and what that's going to be like. But as far as field goal percentage, right, he shot almost a career low this year, and I don't think he's going to shoot that bad next season.
No, I think
he's not that shooter. If you look at his career, he's not that 41% or so, or whatever it is. He's not a 41% shooter from the field. You know what I mean? So I think he'll shoot better. I don't know how much better he'll shoot from three. He might stay around 33% from three. I think he'll shoot better from the field overall. And then, if we can get some guys to stay healthy, I mean, look, like I said, 37-45. In my opinion, if Derrick Rose plays a good amount of games, doesn't play just 25. I mean, he only played 25 games. 37-45. You win 4 games, you're at 500 right there. You know what I mean? I think that's it, and I think that's doable for this team. And when you look at the team, I think it's doable to be able to win 4 more games. That puts you at 500, and maybe even win 5 or 6 more games. Right. I think it's doable. I think the Knicks have flexible contracts. I think that the Knicks have young players on the team. I think the Knicks have draft picks, obviously. Right. So I think they have the ability to get better. You know what I'm saying? Like you just said, Mark, if Randall comes back and he's at 80%, they're already a better team. And then they, pick up someone in the draft or get a draft pick. I mean, not a draft pick, get a free agent. I think they're, now they're 47-35.
And the thing
I think it's entirely possible.
Even going into Yeah, go ahead, Queen.
Just to Sim's earlier point, the casual, like we see the Knicks are not a laughing stock. We cover them, game in and game out. But it's going to take a while for the narrative to change for the Knicks, because so what teams are seeing, what people are seeing, or the casual fan is seeing is, the fourth seed, now the 11th seed. Same old Knicks. They can't sustain, they can't sustain success. So it's going to take some time for the narrative to change.
Now, I agree with you in the sense of the casual fan, but even if a Barkley or a Steven A, who claims to be more than the casual fan of the Knicks, I still think it's somewhat, and I'll take Barkley out of it. Steven A in particular, you know what I mean? Somebody who self-proclaimed Knicks fan, but continuously, time after time, even opposing like what the actual character of what his job should be, and then spews nonsense, and you know what I mean. I just think it lacks integrity, and he should, that's my issue with it. It lacks integrity.
I'm gonna say this with the Russell Westbrook when he mentioned that it's more off of just him. He don't want to disrespect Russell Westbrook because he likes Russell Westbrook. He's not he never disrespect Russell Westbrook. So he's going to say I want Russell Westbrook because he still look at him as a valuable not a valuable player, but a competent player that can not say he can help us in many ways, but do I want him? No. But he's he's still a player that can just do some things prior to what we got.
But you could bring somebody up without bringing somebody else down.
Yeah,
and
but
it's as simple as that.
If you're looking at the Knicks roster, and someone say to me, "Would you rather Russell Westbrook than Kemba Walker and whoever's at your point guard?" People's going to take Russell Westbrook regardless, because we don't have a guard that fills that void. Period. So if anybody say to him, it's like, would you take Russell Westbrook? And knowing that he's on that last, it's not like we're paying him next.
Right.
It's like renting him. So it's just like, if we're taking him just for a year, cool. Because we don't have anybody. You talk about Kemba Walker. I don't think Quickly is a point guard. And that's the thing with our fans. We kind of make ourselves look stupid at the same time because of the stuff we say. You ever look on Twitter and the stuff they spew about the type of tone it down. That's why I try to tone it down for RJ. Tone it down. So
yeah, but to say he give up the farm for Russell Westbrook. Come on.
He's
for a rental. Come on.
He's not saying like RJ Barrett. He's just saying whatever's on that team are disposable. That's what he's saying. I don't think he's including everybody on the team. He just knows because Russell Westbrook got that deal there. You can take Fournier and whatever that matches that, because he has 1 year left and the Lakers would love to get off of him. That's how you got to look at it.
Listen, I said there's a way to argue the point.
Yeah, so
it's just not what he said.
Right, but I don't even take Stephen A seriously because we already know who he is. You know what I mean? So how many other media members are still making fun of the Knicks? To me, Stephen A doesn't even count. I think he's just doing it, like you said, for clicks and shock value and things of that sort. I don't really hear a lot of negative things.
People want the Knicks to be good. Like, people really don't understand. Like, when the Knicks are just good, it just makes the NBA feel great. Because that blue and orange, when it's on Sunday, Friday night, it just looks different. It feels different to the audience. Knicks get ratings more than Brooklyn, and they have the biggest stars.
I agree. Well, let's see what happens this season. Let me bring in Josh. Salute, Josh. I don't know if you want to touch up on the topic before we move on. We're about to move on. Shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Still Knicks fans in the building.
You already know what Josh about to say. You already know.
He gonna agree with everyone. Go ahead.
No, listen, I just, and I've mentioned this on Still Knicks Fan. Shout out to Ron. And we were having this same conversation about the national media and how the national media treats the Knicks. I think it's appropriate to be honest with you. Listen, the Knicks haven't been good in the past 20 years. They haven't. And I think Stephen A. Smith, sometimes he goes overboard. There's no doubt about it. He goes overboard. There's no doubt that, Max Kellerman and all those guys go overboard. But I think it's appropriate considering the facts where the Knicks have been. And I get it. They've been better over the last couple of years. No doubt about that. We've been better over the past couple of years. We've shown a little bit of competence over the past few years. But to me, you just got to win in this league. You got to win. When the Knicks were winning during the season when they got to the 4th seed, it was a much different. The national media was talking about the Knicks much differently than the way they talk about us right now. So, listen, maybe Stephen A. Smith goes overboard, but I think it's appropriate considering where we've been, the resources that we have, the media market that we play in, first of all, and the fact that we have not won.
What other resources? What other resources do we have though?
And those are your contemporaries. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as far as other resources, I'm saying we play in the media capital of the world. We play in New York, right? The Garden is going to make money, right? And I get it. It's not related to the players that we sign and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is a big market team like New York, to me, I feel like has an advantage over smaller market teams. Even though the salary cap is all the same and everything like that, because this is New York, we need to have a better team.
Yeah, I could argue that the Knicks, just because they're in New York, the taxes are different, the weather is different. You know what I mean?
I ain't gonna hold you, Sam. I'll tell you this.
So that plays a big part of it too. You know what I mean? Especially
I'm
now.
gonna say this on that behalf. I just think if the Knicks was very, very good, I mean like a very, very good team, I don't think taxes matter. I keep telling people, if we're a good, like say we're as good as Philly every year, and we can have a player that could just come here. Living in New York when you have money is just so different that these young guys love it. It's just they don't want to be here and be bad. That's the thing. That's the thing. But if we was ringing off wins, looking good, winning streaks, playing big teams, looking better than teams on a nightly basis, just that alone would just attract. Just if we could just get one, and if that one comes here and that one person does that one thing, another one would just attract. It's just about doing it for an amount of time so people say, "Hey, what's going on over there?"
Exactly.
I mean, but I'm gonna say this. I agree with you, but I don't think it's because it's New York. I think it's just because it's a good team. Me personally, in the league, I just don't think New York has the same luster as it has in the past because of social media.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and the ability to market yourself from any place in the world. I just don't think it has that same luster. Now you have other cities who got party scenes and big party scenes and you got actors and artists and people coming from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I think it's different.
Real quick, Queen. I agree with you, except for the fact of until you get here. I think all that is true until you get to New York, and then you see what it really is.
And the thing is true.
And I say that about the good and the bad.
And what you said about social media, this is like the hub of just doing what you want to do at any time of the night, the day. That's what people like. That's what most people.
I agree with that. Yeah. Of course. I mean, but I just think people, especially if you never experienced it, and you never been there, then you're not missing nothing.
But like I said, the team got to get good for us.
That's just my opinion for it.
I think Sam, I think you would be correct. I think you would be correct if it was the same in all other sports. In other sports, people want to come to New York. How come in basketball they don't?
What other sports?
Baseball, people want to come to New York and play for the Yankees. Hockey, people want to come to the Rangers.
The Yankees are different.
Why? No. But why?
Different.
But why?
That's like the Celtics, the Lakers.
But why?
Because of their tradition. Because of their tradition.
And what? And they win.
Right? But again, hold up. But see, that goes back to what I said before. I said if the Knicks are good, people will play not because it's New York City, because they're winning.
Yeah, and
it's because they have a whoa. And I said it's because they're winning, not because of New York City. The Yankees is the winning tradition. I didn't discount anything about winning. All I'm saying is I feel like social media is the great equalizer to New York City. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it is the great equalizer. Right? People talk about, well, you're going to be, you know, you're gonna get this super great celebration and this and that. If I'm in Phoenix and I win, and every time I go to the store, everyone's giving me free food, free dinner, I get into every club free, I don't even know what I'm missing.
You also mentioned taxes and all that other stuff, though, Sam. That's
until you get here.
I did. But that has nothing to do with the Knicks winning or not. I'm talking about the city. That's what I'm talking about with the luster of it. I just feel like social media is the great equalizer.
I just
feel like it's an equalizer.
When you got those connections that they get when they live in New York, I just think that it goes. Like I would say, the team would have to be good 65%, but still, it's still an intriguing place to live just because of the access. The access alone just
but see, I just feel like the access is different now with the internet. I feel like anybody with your ability to market yourself.
Yeah.
Now, when you have those mediocre, middle of the pack players,
mm-hmm.
a bigger city will help them, right? But your star players,
yeah,
I believe that they will get that public that.
Oh no, they're going to get that
where they go. It doesn't matter.
And that it's kind of like this, because most of the stars that are stars now, they was drafted by their team. It's not like a right-out free agents out wanting to come to New York. Most of the big stars is in there. It's on teams that's winning, so it's going to be hard to take them away because they're so used to winning that they're staying there. It's just that we're all
right. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I just don't think like the whole thing about marketing and the party scene and this and that. I just don't think it holds the same today as it did 25 years ago.
Hold on, Queen. What was you trying to get in there?
Well, I was going to go way back to another point, and I would say I get it that we haven't won in a long time, and so the media wants to take punches at us. I get it, but I think at some point, if you're a true journalist, you got to follow what's actually going on. And the Knicks are just not the same franchise.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So you could say, the Knicks have been a losing franchise, whatever. But right now, they're on the upswing. This has happened in the front office. This is whatever. You can't just keep rolling out the same jokes for clicks based on what the organization was 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I'm just expecting from the media, and this is for any team, because you hear it with Sacramento, you hear it with other teams as well. So the idea of, just win, and people start talking. You could talk about the Knicks and our fall off from last year to this year and what happened, but to me, I respect those people that know what's going on
and have some integrity
instead of just talking about what happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Who are we now? And that's the same thing with Sacramento and other teams.
Who are the Knicks now?
The Knicks are a team with a new front office who has cap flexibility and are waiting to make a move to improve this team.
And
this is not the same. Oh, well, okay, Josh, but the point I'm trying to make is winning can't just be the end all and be all. So are you telling me that if you're a journalist and you're reporting on a team, the only thing you're going to look at is whether the franchise is winning or not? You're not going to look at the direction that they're going in. None of that. You're just going to look at whether they won or not. I think it's irresponsible to talk about the Knicks based on what they've been and to ignore who they are now in the trajectory.
Their position moving forward. Even that is enough to say they have wiggle room. They have room for mistakes, as we've seen with the Kemba Walker move. Which your argument is he's not going to be hard to move and move on from. So there's two sides to it. It's not all bad.
I absolutely disagree with you guys, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, we're talking about the national media, right? The national media versus what the Knicks are doing on a day-to-day basis, which is typically covered locally, right? That stuff is covered locally. Like the national media, particularly when you talk about ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, and the NBA are going to cover the NBA on a national level. So winning matters. Those games that you see on national TV,
doesn't matter.
No, but I think it's a part of the conversation, Steph. Tony's talking about what the Knicks are, or what they're going to be, the opportunities that they have, and all of that. The national media is not caring about that. They care about the teams that they can put on TV at that very moment to present to the national media. And if the Knicks are not winning, that's the reason.
So if they don't care about if they don't care about the future and the trajectory of where we can go and the position we're in now, how come when we weren't in that position, when we had bad contracts, when we didn't have draft picks, when we didn't have young players, that was all they focused on, as well as us not winning. So
it's a part of the reason. That's the reason.
So if they use it when it's not there, why? How can they use it against? Right. How can they not mention it when none of that stuff exists?
Still not winning.
Hold on. Understand what he's saying, Josh. Understand what he's saying. You're talking about how you just said how the local media is going to know about the Knicks, the ins and outs of the salary cap and the trajectory and this and that, right? And the national media won't. But when the Knicks were really, really bad and really, really messed up, they would talk about they don't have no salary cap. They don't have no draft picks. The culture is bad. They would talk about all of these things. Right. But wait a minute.
No, you're right. They were plugged in then, but why are you not plugged in?
But you're not plugged in now, right? So all of those things that I just said is what you're saying a local media company would cover. But nationally, they covered it when the Knicks were just really, really, really terrible, right? See, to me, you're going to tell me you've never watched ESPN and seen them go over a team and break down their salary. Look at what players they have, what exceptions they have, how many draft picks they have.
But that's different, Sam. The reason why the Knicks were losing back then was because they made some of those moves, and they had over the cap. I hear what they're saying. You said, how come when the Knicks were losing, they brought up all that other stuff, but now that they're still losing, they're not bringing it up anymore? What I'm telling you is, before that was happening, the reason why the Knicks were bad because they made bad move after bad move, having the highest salary cap in the NBA. That's the reason why they were bad.
And how about now?
Now it's different. That's not the reason why.
But what Tony was bringing up to you is you said we follow them day to day, so we know about those little intricacies, and the national media won't. But back then they did. So why can't they now?
No, and I'm not saying they don't know. I'm saying they don't care. That's what I'm saying. They don't care.
But that's what we're talking about in terms of being responsible
and fair.
Being responsible. Don't just go up there and just be a shock jock, and not even just Stephen A. Smith, just for clicks and to talk about the Knicks and not be aware of where they are now. You were aware 5 years ago. Why are you not aware now?
I absolutely disagree with that. First of all, to Tony's thing about not being fair. First of all, this is New York. You're going to get covered differently than most other markets. Look at the Lakers. Let's talk about the Lakers for a second. The Lakers, second biggest market in the country, right? When the Lakers had the baby Lakers and Kobe's down years or whatever, and they weren't winning, they were getting bashed just as much as the Knicks because they weren't winning. And not only that, they have a standard of winning in LA on the Lakers. And the national media was focusing bad on them. Right? And the Laker fans spoke just as bad as the national media did because of that standard of winning. If you look at us, we have been bad for years. So for everyone to get so frustrated about the national media treating the Knicks this way, it's New York. That's what comes with the territory.
I think it shouldn't.
But that's the reality, Steph. That's the reality.
When we're bad and you want to say we're bad, no problem. But you can't report it the same way when the Knicks are a different team. You just can't.
They're looking at it
and be a responsible journalist, in my opinion.
Well, you know what, too? No, you know what, too, Queen? You know what, too, Queen? You got to look at it as this. When the Knicks took a step up, and then when they took a step back down, especially a guy like Stephen A., who was a Knicks fan, to see you go up and then come back down to your lowest. It's hard to be positive about your team because now we're, as a panel, we're all over the place because we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't even know.
Exactly.
We're not even confident in what our players are going to give us next year on the floor.
Exactly.
So it's really hard to even talk, slightly good about this team because of the in and outs about it. We just haven't had a level. If we had a level of consistency to be a good team, if we were something like Atlanta Hawks just getting into the playoffs, then we would be talking about a little more.
What's the difference than what the national media does compared to what people do on Twitter every day? I mean, let's just be frank about it.
And that's my problem. That's my problem. They're acting they're acting like they're not journalists. They're not nationally syndicate radio stations or something like that. They're acting like they're just some guy tweeting.
Tony,
And to me, that is disrespectful to their craft, and this is why I feel like the players are empowered in the media now, because they have a more valid point. They look at things with more perspective, and they have inside knowledge. So to me, they're endangering themselves by taking away their integrity.
So Tony,
it's not taking away integrity. The Knicks have been bad. What do you want them to say? Oh, the Knicks are going to be good. They're going to be
report
so
it,
good.
report it the way it is. Report it the way it
The
is.
Knicks have been bad. That's the way it is.
Objectively.
And all of this,
report it objectively.
Objectively, the Knicks have been bad, Sim.
Josh, you know what? Josh.
So you didn't hear nothing. Sorry, man, you didn't hear nothing.
We're not talking about the whole 20 years.
Right.
We get it. You're right. You're absolutely right.
When the Knicks won 2 seasons ago, they made the 4th seed. Was the national media covering us different?
Yeah, they loved it, Randy.
But why?
Yeah,
But why?
Because we was good.
Okay.
But
that's the point.
Okay.
That's the point.
You know what? And all of this, you know what?
Okay.
And all this bad blood between the media and the Knicks fan. If this organization would just talk to the team, like how I see other radio stations get their GMs, the Golden State, I listen to 95.7. He comes on there twice every month to talk about what he's doing and about the team.
That's a
and
fair
how
assessment.
we're going about it. This team runs this team like a private institution, like a communist jail. That's how this team. It's
all I'm saying is, do your work. Don't just come up there spewing garbage. Do your work.
I understand
do
that,
your
but
work.
understand.
Do your work. Know what you're talking about. Know what you're talking about. Do your work.
When we played Brooklyn on ESPN, I would never forget this. We played Brooklyn on ESPN. We were up by like 20-something at half, right? On ESPN, it was a national televised game. We were winning that game. Stephen A. Smith came on there and said, you know what he said? I'm not worried about it. It's the Knicks. They're going to lose this game. Knicks fans got pissed. They got mad. They got, I can't believe Stephen A. Smith's doing it again. What happened that game?
Okay.
A broke clock
that's
twice a day.
Because that overreaction is exactly what happened. This happens all the time. So for people to act like the national media is all wrong for covering the Knicks the way they do, it's appropriate. The Knicks have not been good.
It's not okay. All right.
And it's
just because somebody is not good doesn't mean that there's multiple ways you could cover it. Just because a person is not, just because a player that I'm playing against is not good doesn't mean I can smack them over the head and spit on them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, they're not good. How are you going to cover that?
Yeah, Queen, it's just like this. Our own team inflects its own self. Will inflect. Will go out into the media and it's going to inflect us until we do things from the top, talking to the fans. Like the GM, he comes out once a year to talk to us. What is that? That's not how you run an organization.
No, I agree.
I agree
with that. And on MSG, on MSG, and the whole media.
You cannot cover the Knicks the same way you cover the Utah Jazz. I'm sorry. The New York market is 30 million people. 30 million people.
No, but hold on, hold on.
I still say that is your beef and express that. You know what I mean? Don't just act like that don't have nothing to do with it. If that's the problem, say that as a journalist.
But you know that
it's not a problem.
And express that.
It's not what problem? There is no problem.
But Tony, that leaves for people. Listen, that leaves people on Twitter and on TV and everything to leave them in the dark, and they can just say anything because this team don't say anything about their own team. So if we're fans, we're just coming up with things in our head to say because our guys are not giving us guidance. In this life, you need guidance to whatever you're doing in life. This organization don't give us a sense of guidance. They just do what they feel is best without even saying, okay, fans, this is how we doing. This is the insight on this and that. And that. They don't even
agree with that. I agree with that.
My only counter to that was a lot of times the organizations, this organization was too blabbermouth. They talked about a little bit too much, and I think this is a direct response to that. I don't agree with it. I think they should be more outspoken and less, at least letting us know, the fans and the media, what's going on from within. But I think that's a direct effect of
Tony,
I mean, you don't have to tell us who we drafted. I mean, you don't have to say.
Tony, we don't even know our team ourselves, so it's just like someone
Respond to
don't.
the whole thing
It's just
about
like
the media
someone
access.
don't know you, Tony, and they're able to judge you because they don't know you. But until they meet you,
I'm waiting for Josh to respond to Leon Rose, explaining the trajectory of the team or where the Knicks are going and things like that. I'm waiting to hear what you got to say about that.
So I'm not with the whole the reason why the media covers the Knicks the way they do is because they don't talk to the media and all that. I'm not with that whole thing. I don't necessarily believe it. I think it strictly comes down to winning or lack thereof, so to speak. Now, in regards to Dolan and all of that, I think Dolan and Leon Rose should allow the media more access. I think it would help the situation, but I think strictly the reason why the media covers the Knicks the way they do is because, one, we play in New York City, the media capital of the world, a market of 30 million people, and two, we've been losing. I think if we've been winning, it'd be totally different. Look the way they cover the Lakers when the Lakers win. It's different.
Can I ask you a hypothetical question? Hypothetical question. Kyrie and Kevin Durant came to the Knicks instead of Brooklyn, and things played out exactly how they played out.
Because they're in New York as well, the media capital.
Yeah,
in New York.
No, but there's a difference. There's a huge difference between the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks.
It's New York. That's all she said.
That's all she said. But I think there's a huge difference.
So you agree it would be a huge difference in the coverage?
Yeah,
yes or no?
Although they're both in New York City.
You have Louis Vuitton,
that's my
and you have Gucci. Which one is more valuable?
That's my point.
Louis Vuitton and you have Gucci. Which one is more
different.
valuable?
That's my point.
That's way different. The Nets don't have not nearly the
Kyrie,
fan base and all the amount of pull around the country and around the world than the New York Knicks do. Y'all know that.
And they've been winning. They didn't win a chip, but they've been winning.
And you see, they don't get the same coverage as the Lakers when the Lakers win.
Tony, they don't get the same. If Kevin Durant and Kyrie was on his team and what passed by just now, my God.
Thank you.
That's the
point. You
point.
want to evacuate New York. It would have been, listen, it would have been bad because you know what? That blue and orange is more brighter than black and white.
Same with the Yankees and the Mets.
Okay.
Same with the Giants and the Jets. It's the same thing.
So the point is, take away the media capital. Take that away because they're both playing in the same media and it's different. So take away that as a reason why the Knicks get covered the way they do. If you want to say it's winning, whatever, but take away the media capital because there are other teams that's playing in the media capital as well.
Yeah, but Steph, even locally in the media capital, the big brother gets covered a little bit differently than the little brother. That's a reality. It's the truth. Listen, don't get mad at me for telling you what the truth is.
But look, you go to Louis before you go to Gucci.
Look, yeah, I disagree too because look, you went in and you talked about that they got more fans, this, that, and this and that. Nationally, with the national media, what does the amount of fans really have to do with the way that you cover the team? Not if you bring them up in the media, not if you bring them up, because you can bring because the Knicks have a big fan base. You might say we're going to mention the Knicks this many times per month, but it can be fair coverage. It can be real insightful coverage, right? So because we know that they have a fan base. How bringing them up, talking about them is different than how bringing them up a number of times is different than how you cover them, right? You can bring them up as many times as you want. Do the good coverage, right? Do the good coverage.
Good coverage about.
So what does the amount of fans that they have relate to how the media covers the Knicks?
It's about the amount of fans that they have and the markets that they're in. I think both of those. If you look at the New York media, you have the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets. Even though they play in the same media market, the New York Knicks fans and the Knicks cover up a way bigger share of the New York market. Hold on, Sam.
I understand that.
Hold on, Sam. We're talking about national.
What's the reaction?
We're talking about
because we're gonna get on here and talk about it and debate it.
Let me finish my point real quick. I think the New York Knicks fans and the Knicks are more relevant in this $30 million market than the Brooklyn Nets are. If you look at LA, it's the same way between the Lakers and the Clippers. The Lakers get bought up nationally just as much as the Knicks do. If not, right, and they get destroyed if they're not winning. So and those two markets contribute to a majority of that national market. That's why the media talks about the Knicks and the Lakers.
But
it's not
what
about
I'm saying is
how they talk.
How? What does the size of the fan base have to do with how you talk about them? Not if you talk about them, but how you talk about them.
Well, Sim, it goes back to how our organization run things and how guys, how our top guys don't talk to the media. Now, if our guys talk to the media and gave more clarity on what this organization is about, I think it would be a lot more different. But you're leaving everyone in the dark to talk about your team in any which way, which you're gonna do as a person in general. It's just like when you don't know somebody and you're just one of those people that's gonna just judge a team of what it done. They're judging the team of what it done in the past. So that's all they got. So that's all you got to expect that until this team get more community.
Okay,
Well,
so
That's the how. That's the how.
Hold on. No. Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Mark. I'm going to disagree with you because there are certain things that are facts that you can look at. The Knicks were 37-45. That is a fact.
But we were still a bad
wait
team.
a minute. I know, but listen to me. The whole salary that the Knicks have right now, their salary cap, that is a fact. The number of draft picks, that is a fact. Right? The way that the salary cap is structured, that is a fact. All of these things are facts without Leon Rose coming and saying we're going in this direction. These things are facts. Now, if you want to take the facts and say, I'm looking at these facts, this is where I think the Knicks might go. Boom. There it is. But to just, come out and say, oh, everybody on the Knicks is expendable for Russell Westbrook.
Because Sim, I went back on
Hold on,
that.
but that's not all he said, though. No, that's not all he said. So you chose to listen to that part. Did you listen to the part where he said, I believe in Leon Rose and my man Worldwide West? Did you hear that part? All right, so don't exclude that part.
And I also heard him say that. Right. But I also heard him say in another time, this front office sucks. These guys ain't done nothing. They're terrible.
All right, but Knicks fans feel that same way about that. They say the same thing all the time on Twitter, the same thing. And as a fan, if you want to question Stephen A. Smith fandom,
Twitter is not being a professional journalist.
Hold on, but he's also a fan as well, which a lot of people have a problem with. He also said he was a fan. He's speaking as a fan. So what's wrong with that? Because fans do it all the time.
I'll tell you what.
As a fan and another platform. If you're doing it professionally, cover the team professionally.
Well, guess what?
To be honest,
like Doris Burke does, and the other Knicks fans out there.
I respect Max Kellerman a whole lot more because even with his disowning his fandom of the Knicks,
he's a Lakers fan now.
I think he still uses more reasoning in his coverage of the Knicks, good or bad. Excuse me.
I don't know what reason.
I do.
Got a merry-go-round, Josh. You got a little merry-go-round.
That was my alarm.
You got a little lullaby.
I just don't understand this notion about how people want the Knicks to be covered differently when they haven't shown that they deserve to be covered differently. I just don't understand that logic.
You don't have to be this.
You
have to deserve to be covered honestly with integrity. Like you have to deserve that.
The Knicks are covered honestly with integrity. We've been bad, Steph. That's honest. We've been
I
bad.
don't have a problem with teams that's saying that the Knicks have not been a good team over the past 20 years. It's the butt of the joke, Josh. See, you just looking at the content. Just the actual words. Sometimes they talking about the Knicks on a butt of a joke on a broadcast where the Knicks have been out of the playoffs. The Knicks didn't even make the playoffs. There's no reason for the Knicks to come up for you to prove a point about something you're talking about on a playoff team. I'm
gonna be 100% honest with you. And I told Ron this on Saturday when I went on his podcast and we had the same subject. I've been in different places around the country, stationed everywhere. When I tell people that I'm Knicks fans, particularly when I was in LA, when I tell people that I'm a Knicks fan, the first thing out their mouth is, ew, why are you a Knicks fan? The Knicks are the butt of the joke. We've been the butt outside of New York. We have been the butt of the joke for years. And the main reason for that is because we're not winning. When the Knicks start to win, it will be way different. That's what I'm saying, Steph. I understand.
I hear what you're saying. I understand win or lose. To ask a journalist to cover a team fairly is not.
Stephen A. Smith is also an entertainer. He's a journalist and he's also an entertainer. He does it for ratings.
To me, Stephen A. Smith doesn't even count. I'm not even talking about.
But that's who we're talking
about.
You
don't even know. No. We talking about everybody else too. Stephen A. Smith don't even count. It's a bunch of them.
Until we stop acting like losers, we're gonna get talked about like losers. That's the point.
Exactly. Listen, I want to move on.
So I want to see him do Orlando the same way. all of these teams. I want to see him do all of these teams the same exact way, right? Because these
Orlando.
teams been losing for 20 some odd years or longer, or whatever. Do the same thing. Do the
It's
same
not
thing.
New York. It's not New York.
Listen, I want to move on, but Mark, I want to get your take on the MBK show with Ayton and if you think we should pursue him, why not, and what do you think it's gonna cost? Keep it brief though.
Okay. Things have to happen for us to get him. One, they still have his rights. They can still pay him, regardless of anything.
The report is out that they looking to.
So if that's the case, they're gonna look for the best deal possible for the Phoenix Suns.
Right.
The Knicks don't have it. I'm sorry, because they're gonna look for a player because they're still in a championship contention type team. So again, that's where we lose everything to get him. And they're not
gonna take these young players.
They're not, because again, they're not proven yet. They're not consistent yet. What the Phoenix are gonna look for, they're gonna look for a player. They're gonna look for 2 players and 2 first-round picks, because Ayton is still that good, and he's only 23, 24, and he still has more room to rise. The fact that Phoenix didn't give him the money and introduce him more into the offense, they deserve what's happening, because if you watch the finals, they played him like a role player, and he's better than that. They was taking him out the offense. They wasn't giving him the ball. Devin Booker was taking wild, ill-advised shot. Chris Paul, like he just gave up. He gassed out. It was just horrible. Ayton was complaining because they didn't believe in him like how they believed in Mikal Bridges giving him $90 million. Simple as that. And I think Ayton is better than Mikal Bridges. I don't care what nobody says. Okay? So for that to happen, they lost that. And they're gonna either get back a good player, and picks. It's mandatory because Ayton is still 20-10. And if he gets to a team that utilizes him right, he could be 22, 25 a night. Okay, so I think
you don't think we have enough.
No shot, because we have Randall too, and him coming here fitting with Randall, that's not even a good look, because he won't even get the ball, because we know Randall needs the ball.
What if you include Randall in the trade?
But does Phoenix want Randall? I doubt it.
Hold on, but again, Mark, the part that you're not understanding is DeAndre Ayton is unrestricted. He can leave. They can lose him.
He's restricted. He's restricted.
Is he? Sorry,
he's
my bad.
Sorry. So they could pay him the money. If they could pay him the money now and then trade him off a little later. So they still have leverage around him, but they're gonna look for the best deal possible. Now, if they wanted Randall, take him and 2 first-round picks and give me that bad boy.
Two first round picks?
I'll give him more.
Hell no.
Are you saying they're gonna give us 2 first-round picks?
No, I'm talking about the Knicks. I'm talking about the Knicks giving up 2 first-round picks.
No.
I don't think Randall is going to be enough now.
And
Randall's not. That's why I added 2 first-round picks.
Right. I don't think it's going to be enough.
And are you maxing them out?
Who? Yeah, I'm maxing them out, man.
Ayton?
Wow.
You maxing them out?
I'm maxing them out because guess what?
5 years, 177 million. 5 years, 177 million.
No, he comes here with 4. If he gets traded,
well, if they do a sign and trade, if they do a sign and trade, he can sign that 5th year with Phoenix, and then they trade him.
What's that?
5 years. 5 years, 177 million.
30 plus a year.
It's like a 33 annual value, 33 million a year. Annual value. It's probably going to fluctuate between 29 and 38.
I think it's 35. I think it's.
I think I would do it because he's young and
our case is 36 annual. Our case is 36 annual. So that's the
thing is because we have time. We have a lot of time. It's like you're paying. It's like what we're trying to get rid of Randall because we want a better player. So I just look at it like that. I'm swapping him for a younger player, and he still has a lot more in his game than how Phoenix utilized him. I think Phoenix went away. I do agree with that. They went away from him. So it made him look bad. But when you talk about defensive, holding his own, he can guard. Like I said, he can guard coverages. He can guard coverages and put him with tips. I think it would just make him more stronger, more confident. I just think
the Knicks would have to give up a lot to beat out the other offers.
That's the thing. That's why I'm not even looking at that, because I look at that. It's all going to be in Phoenix favor at the end of the day. Because they're going to get what they need.
What if Ayton decides he wants to come to New York? Wouldn't that tip his skills in our favor a little bit better?
You can't do that.
Not necessarily.
You cannot do that.
Not necessarily. I mean, No, it would, because he has to agree to the signing trade.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And he wants out of Phoenix, like he wants out. So again,
but I'm saying, what if he determines the team that he wants to go to? Then it'll work in our favor a little bit. Let's say he wants to. Go ahead.
Different. It's different. It's different when he don't want to be there. He just want out. So it's like, wherever you put me, I'm going to get my money. He wants his money. He wants to feel value. That's this word out of his mouth. He did not feel value, meaning they went away from him. They didn't think that he's that good enough. So any team that's willing to give him that money, sign me up. And then
I don't know if he's gonna be like, oh, I want to go. Like, why? Like, I want to go to the Knicks.
No, he don't
when each team could pay him the same.
Yeah, he wants his money, and it's well deserving because, again, for a young player to be in the finals, and he has finals experience, so that's on his belt, and he can get a lot more better. He's playing behind two guys that are not kind of ball dominant, and they're not looking from, because when I watch how Dallas did that to him, it was. So I'm watching Kevon Looney looking better than him. It's a shame.
So let me ask this though, because he's not the kind of center that's going to be handling the ball, or is going to advance the ball up the floor. So regardless, he's going to be dependent upon other guards to get him the ball, which means it's going to be post-up situations.
So if he came to the Knicks, came up to the Knicks, he would play just like how Joakim Noah is playing. That's how Tibbs would use him. Tibbs, if you have skill,
but that's what I wanted to get at and ask you. Both you and Tony, you said that you didn't think that they used all of his ability. So what abilities do you think that they did not use?
There was times where he would run up the floor. He gets great positioning as a big man every time. When he runs the floor, if you go watch that, it was missed opportunities after missed opportunities. He was like open. They was treating him like he was on the other team. They was not looking for him. He gets great deep positioning. He's great on a pick and pop. He's like a modern. He's like a modern Tim Duncan with a jump shot.
I honestly think the offense could be run through him, and I say that more so on a team like ours than with Chris Paul as their point guard. As you pointed out, Sim, his numbers barely changed. Actually, I think his numbers went down a little bit with CP3. So
they went down to 14, and then they were back up to 17.
So even with that, I mean, maybe it was the adjustment of playing with him, and then he figured that out. But I think he was adequate enough on his own. Someone pointed out in the chat on your show, they ended that bubble run with 19-0 in the bubble.
He was destroying cats.
Just missed the playoffs. He was playing at his highest point.
He was one of the reasons why they got to the finals.
And I feel like you could run the offense through him. I'm not saying like traditionally old school, but somewhat in like Joel Embiid in the sense that in stretches you could feed it to him down low. He could pass the ball. You don't have to even do that. He could stretch the floor at times. It's so much you can do with him, and they utilized him as a role player, and I think he's bigger than that. I think he's.
But
bigger
I mean,
than that.
I'm pretty sure though you have to make a decision. If you feature him, there's certain players you can't feature. You know what I mean? If you feature the perimeter, there's certain,
or
you got to figure
out, or you have to adjust because I think it could have been an inside out game, which may have worked better for that team.
Phoenix was so good they could have did any type of offense they want. They were that good.
They could have. But they just want to.
So why not utilize him?
You could feature him in spurts, but I'm thinking about if he comes to the Knicks, you're gonna have a center run offense. You're gonna like how effective are you gonna be in this?
It's just how
the way the game is played.
It's just how they run with Randall. It's just like how they run with Randall, but this guy is more polished. He understands how to play the game.
You can't run the same. Randall's bringing the ball up the court.
No, Steph. I think he's talking about touches, Steph. I think he's talking about touches.
But in the post,
in the post,
feed him in the post and make the defense do what they do, and he can react. Whether it's dominating in the post, whether it's feed.
That's gonna be your offense, though. It's inside out up. That's real old school.
It is.
Joel
and
is
it
a
doesn't.
whole other.
And it
I
doesn't.
understand,
it
but
doesn't
they run through a big man that is offensively talented. Ayton is offensively talented, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I get it, but
as much as Joel Embiid
he's not
to
far
make
off.
that your pro,
or
to make that your
the Joker, because
I
they
don't-
run the
featured
offense.
offense?
through them.
Wait.
But I don't
He
think
can
it- I
shoot
don't
the
think it has to-
basketball. He has a 15
I don't think it has
footer.
to be entire game. I'm just saying that dynamic is again something that this team hasn't even fathomed in years. You know what I mean? So it brings a totally different dynamic to the team. Everybody will still have their turn. I feel like because to use their strengths.
The post. He can make plays off the post. He's patient.
His talent is undeniable. But when you're talking about running an offense,
I run my offense through Randall.
But Randall is still a perimeter type.
He's still a perimeter type player. You're talking about him having the ball.
Guy, man. Randall's not a perimeter player. He's
Okay,
not.
Okay, listen. You're talking about taking him, putting him in the post, throwing him the ball in the post. So now you got to have a guard, give him the ball in the post, and then look for facilitation. Look for him to find the open shooter, this, that, and the third. With Randall, is different. He brings the ball up. He can go down in the post, or he hands the ball off at the top of the key. You know, different. It's different the way that they would have to facilitate the ball, because Randall can have the ball in his hands and start the facilitation. Now you're talking about a guard getting him the ball to start the facilitation. I think those are two very different things.
Okay, so
we can do that at times, but I can't see that being our offense as well.
And I envision
this won't be an offense, but you would have
Randall
counters.
being here.
That's the thing. When you have a big man that's offensively talented,
hold up, Mark.
Counters.
I envision Randall being here, so he could still facilitate and feed the post, which is an option he never had. He couldn't feed the post before. So how is giving him an option that he never had like a bad thing? You know what I mean? I think it expands the offense.
Ally Wise, I appreciate you for rocking with us. Can we stop talking about the one or two times that Mitch had a good game against Ayton? I mean, you're not playing Ayton every single game. You're not playing him every single game.
No, the way people talk about Mitch is like, just stop. Just stop it. I'm sick of it.
Hey, calm down with the venom.
Wait, Tony might mute your mic. That's his guy.
I'm sorry, Tony, but Jesus Christ.
Oh man,
This is why the media makes it out to be jokes.
I don't, Tony, real quick. I don't think the Knicks will run or give Ayton the same amount of touches as they give Randall. I think he needs to get the ball more, no doubt. I think he definitely needs to get the ball more. If he comes to the Knicks, he would, but I don't think it would be at the level of a Embiid or someone with a super high usage rate. I think his usage rate would be probably around between 20-24%, and I think that'd be good enough for him. Give him some touches, make him a part of the offense, but not the number one guy. I think if Randall were to be going and we add Ayton, I think RJ will get the majority of the touches and Ayton will be number two.
But I'm not saying the focal point of the offense. I'm saying when you feed him, it's for him to go to work and make the decision, as opposed to feeding him like in this position, he's only fed to score. So
no.
In Phoenix, he had to get fed to eat. And if he don't get fed, he don't eat. So it's different. Whereas as opposed to giving him his fair share to say, here, go ahead and you go eat on your own. You know what I mean?
When you're playing with a point guard that don't really play well off ball, right? So you're going to go to the guard that plays well on the ball. The thing with Ayton is that he gives us options. To have him on this team that could give us easy buckets that we lack, easy inside points that we do not get. I'm talking about the easy things that he allow us to do. A center that can defend Joel Embiid. We're going against guys in the East. We can have an advantage at center.
I'm just talking about Mark. You know, you were talking about like straight up running the offense through him. Now, I'm not denying his talent. There's no argument there with anybody on this panel about that. It's about running the offense through him.
No, at times I would. If the game calls for him, yeah.
Of course.
No, Mark. I think the way
course.
you said it, Mark. You said run the offense through him as if he's going to be the number one focal point on the team. That's the way you made it seem. And I think that.
Of course, you're going to do that from time to time. That's going to happen with everybody.
He has more room to improve. He's only 22, 23. If he gets better, and naturally, yeah, he can be that. He can be that type of player.
You think he has the upside of an Embiid or Joker? Because
not
those are the guys that
not MVP, not MVP, but he has all-star level.
He's the number one pick.
He has all-star level.
That don't mean he's going to be up. Just
no, but if you're an all-star player, you have capables of doing superstar things at times. That's just the difference. You're an all-star level player. You're consistent. He can be a consistent player every night. Who I feel that when he goes into matchups, I don't have to say he's going to lose my matchup tonight. Like we do with Randall when he loses to guys smaller than him.
Well, he lost to Mitch.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna end the show on positive note.
You know how many third string centers Mitch lose on a daily night?
I'm just saying. You said you didn't have to worry about him losing.
Well, let me tell you something. Mitch can have his good nights. I'm not gonna take that away from him. But trust me, stop talking about Mitch, please. 1 in 55 and 70
Mitch, please. Next episode is all about Mitch. So,
Jesus Christ!
And you're welcome. You're welcome, Mark. You're welcome to join. Any last words? We got about 8 minutes before Queen's Court. I'll start with the Queen. Any last words?
This was a great show. This reminds me of old times. Josh, Mark. When I was looking at you guys, it was Josh and Mark. The funniest guy. I was just, I mean, it was informative, but it was entertaining at the same time. So this was a great show.
Vibrant energy.
Yeah, it was.
Sim.
No doubt, man. This was a great show. Had a lot of fun arguing. Coming at Josh.
And I thought it was going to be a mini topic. You know what I mean?
I know that too, but you know what it is? When I come on the show, I can drag stuff. I'm sorry. Because this topic shouldn't have been dragged the way we dragged it, honestly.
But ladies and gentlemen, make sure you get those tickets, man, to the MBK draft party.
And everybody from this chat, jump on to the next show.
Queen's Court, that's right.
8 minutes.
Because we're going to be talking about Mitch and Sims as well in terms of the second round prospects. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, let's go.
I just want to say, I think that my whole take with Dolan and the Knicks and how bad we've been, I think that was like my number one thing that people disagree with me on.
He's been out the way. Keep Dolan out. He's been out the way. I don't want to blame him.
Let me finish, Mark. Let me finish. I think that was since the beginning, that's been my number one take that a lot of people disagree with me on. I know the RJ thing came after, but I'm really passionate about that because I love the Knicks. And I want the Knicks to be good, just like a lot of us do. We want the Knicks to be good, to be a winning team. But that just frankly has not been the case. And I think in order for the perception of the team to get changed, not just with the national media, but people around the country as well, we need to win. And we need to, when we win, when we put on national TV, teams will see us a little bit more, or fans will see us a little bit more. And I think that's how we'll get our respect instead of just blaming the media for the Knicks being bad. And that's the way it comes across sometimes.
No, we're not.
That's the way it comes across.
The Knicks are bad, period. It ain't got nothing to do with the media.
So there you go.
I could blame the media for some stuff, but that's another episode.
Right. And I agree the narrative will change, when we start winning. It's still a bit over the top, in my opinion.
You just know it's coming every time because it's the blue and orange. It's okay. We just gotta not take serious with those guys. It's just like Twitter, man.
It's always a grain of salt, but it shouldn't be like Twitter. These guys are getting paid. How many people are getting paid for their takes on Twitter?
You heard what Draymond said, new media. So this is what you
agree. Right? I agree. Shout out to the chat. I appreciate you guys for joining.
Definitely appreciate you.
Great panel tonight. And Yo Black is time. See y'all on Queen's Court.